Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Colonna, and this is Nashville. Picture something with me. Cattle grazing in rolling green pastures, crops growing in rows, small and large working barns set off from busy roads. Many of us have caught glimpses into the thousands of working farms across our state. Now, farmers and farmland are central to Tennessee's character and economy. Nearly 40% of our state's land is farmland, and more than 360,000 people in our state have jobs related to agriculture and forestry, according to the Tennessee Farm Bureau. But Tennessee is rapidly losing its farmland, mostly to development. Once land is developed, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to turn it back to open space or workable land. So farmers, nonprofits, and the state government are working to help farmers keep their land. This is Nashville producer Katherine Ceicys recently visited two Tennessee farmers who are making plans for the future of the properties their families have owned and worked for generations. Let's take a listen.
See, this little guy's tongue somehow goes to the side, so it makes it a little more challenging for him to eat, but he's getting it.
That's Marianne Blackwell. She's bottle feeding a small calf on her family farm in Rutherford County, Tennessee.
This one came in, some of that hard rain just got chilled and just had kind of a rough start. So he's needing a little extra help these days.
Blackwell owns the 224-acre farm she grew up on. Right now, she cares for 48 breeding cows, 38 calves, and a couple of bulls.
Suck. That was a call my dad had for cattle, and I just kind of kept it, and they typically know I'm looking for them, and it will typically come and respond. Suck.
A few of the cattle crest the hill and start moving towards Blackwell, one in particular.
She can be disappointed if I don't have some feed with her. This is her little calf up here at the gate.
Blackwell not only takes care of the creatures on her farm, she's also put thought and care into the future of the farm itself. Having seen rapid development in Middle Tennessee over the last decades, she's decided to put a land easement on her property. An easement legally determines what future owners can and can't do with a property. Blackwell has chosen an easement that ensures her farm will stay a farm.
So it might be a cattle farm, and it could potentially be row crops or something else, but it's really very reassuring to know that it will stay an open space.
Right now, about 40% of Tennessee is farmland. That number is decreasing daily as farmers sell their land, mostly to developers. Subdivisions and stores can crop up quickly where crops and cows used to grow. Once land is developed, it's exceptionally difficult to ever turn it back. Governor Bill Lee brought up the issue during his February State of the State address, where he announced his support for a $25 million farmland preservation fund that would help farmers put easements on their land.
Farm families in our state, they keep food on our tables, they drive our economy. However, our state is losing 10 acres of farmland per hour, which is a staggering number when agriculture is the number one driver of our economy.
Rolling green pastures and fields of row crops are picturesque, but they are also markers of the nearly 70,000 working farms, the vast majority of them family farms, within Tennessee.
Suck. Come on.
Gary Gardner is the fourth-generation owner of a 50-acre family farm in Ardmore, close to the Alabama border.
That bunny came up a wind several years ago and blew the tin off the top of the bun. And of course, I got back up there and put it back on.
Gardner's great-grandfather, Matt Gardner, was a formerly enslaved man who worked to purchase farmland for his family. Gardner's grandfather and father both worked the land. Now he does. When he was growing up, Gardner says his family lived off of what they grew here.
And then, of course, all up through here was blackberries. We picked blackberries during June. Then these fields right here, all of that was for growing vegetables and sweet potatoes and potatoes. So that's how we survived on the farm.
Gardner says being close to the land brings him joy and peace, and he wants to keep the promise of that peace for others. But none of his children or grandchildren wants to take over the farm.
That's sad. I mean, the younger generation, they want everything quick and fast. But this life right here, it ain't many young folks that's interested in doing this.
He says he especially doesn't want anyone to ever build apartment buildings or a large-scale chicken farm on this land, which is why he's considering an easement. But there are hurdles, including costs like getting a survey and the legal work of sorting through heir property rights. The Farmland Preservation Bill may be able to help him with those costs, but it's unclear by how much right now. Even though Gardner is thinking about the future, he's making sure to savor what he loves most about working and living on his family land.
The freedom. I mean, you get out there. I mean, we ride back up on top of the hill and turn around and look south, and you can see for at least 10 miles. It's beautiful up there. Absolutely beautiful. That's what I love about it. I mean, your freedom. I mean, you're just free,
For This Is Nashville, I'm Katherine Ceicys.
Joining us now to share about her experience and perspective as a farmer is Marion Blackwell, who we heard at the top of that clip. She currently runs the Greens Ward Farm in Rutherford County, which has been in her family for over 100 years. Marianne, welcome to This Is Nashville. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Okay, so how's it going today? How are you?
Having a great day. I got up about 5:30 this morning, and I was giving those baby calves, 2 of them on bottles by 6.
2 of them on bottles. How old are they?
About 6 weeks old.
Oh, wow. I imagine baby calves are pretty adorable.
They are adorable. They grow fast.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you're in the 3rd or 4th month, 2 bottles a day gets, maybe a little tiring and old, but it's still great.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, so when we hear the word farmer, we all have different ideas of what being a farmer means and actually looks like day to day. When you hear that word, what do you think?
Probably the first thing that comes to mind is family. Our family came to Tennessee in the late 1700s, and all sides of my family are farmers, and I couldn't be more proud of that legacy and that history and the cousins that have taught me so much since my father passed in 2006.
Mm. So what does it mean to you to be a farmer?
Really to be one with the land. I grew up on a farm. It's not only where we lived, but also where we made our living. It's important for me to honor that family history and that legacy, and also recognize our state's agricultural history as well.
Who started your family farm?
My grandfather bought it in 1917. He moved pretty much within 5 miles of where he grew up, where he was born and grew up, and purchased the farm where I live in 1917. So it's 108 years old this year. 108
years old. Did you all do any special in 2017?
We did. As a way to honor its 100th birthday, I decided to partner with the Land Trust for Tennessee and put a conservation easement on the deed.
Mm. Okay, so can you describe this connection that you feel to the land that you grew up on, you currently live on, that your parents and grandparents worked and lived on as well? Tell me a little bit more about what that connection is like.
It's just the land is part of me, and I think I'm a part of it in a way. It's been hard work through the years, but it's been tremendously gratifying and rewarding, and really I couldn't imagine anything else or anything different.
It's something. It's that, like that legacy we were talking about family. It's like a place that has taken care of you for generations.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the hard work. And, I think we all understand that farming is not easy. You're taking care of animals, plants, the land, and it involves physical work that never goes away. You never get a day off necessarily. And on top of that, I understand that many farmers now have day jobs to make ends meet, as you do. Not everybody's willing to keep up with something so difficult, a day job, then all of the duties and responsibilities you have to the farm. Why have you kept at farming?
I look around and Tennessee's been remarkably successful lately in terms of growth and rapid growth and such. But also, I think there's another side to that coin. We don't want to be victims of that success either. And so it was important for me to protect the open space to ensure a farming legacy for my family farm. Hopefully someone in the family will want to run cattle or farm it. But if not, the conservation easement at least ensures that it will stay a family farm.
What motivated you to think about this longer time horizon, by instituting the easement on the property?
I just couldn't imagine it getting paved over. I just couldn't imagine a strip mall out there where I see, beautiful cattle grazing in open pastures. I couldn't imagine, 100 or 200 houses, on the place where I grew up.
Strip malls have been getting a bad rap for a long time, but I imagine a strip mall where a beautiful pasture used to be is pretty unsightly, or a little bit of an eyesore. Why was the easement the right choice for you and your partner, your property?
It ensures that it'll be taken care of after I'm not able to take care of it. There'll come a time when I leave this earth and will be older, and it just ensures that it will be that my wishes will be carried out into in perpetuity.
Now, do you know of anyone who's had to let go of some of their property due to financial reasons, and that property has been developed? Have you seen that happen close to where you are?
Left and right, and I've worked in healthcare recruitment for decades now. So you see, families sometimes having to sell off a part or sell, land to even take care of healthcare bills. So it's just, it's sad when that happens.
Mm-hmm. What do you wish people understood more about the difficulties and the challenges of farm life?
We all have choices. I mean, life's not easy. It's not really, I don't think, meant to be, a walk in the park. So I think it's good for us to kind of embrace and move forward. Our life is a sequence of choices we make along the way. So it would be easy to make the quick choices and the quick grabs and the quick wins. But there's more to life than that. And I'm really proud to be part of what I feel is meaningful.
Now, back to the easement. How did you decide the exact terms of the easement that you put on your property?
I sat down with several members from the Land Trust for Tennessee, and we discussed options. It was I knew enough about a conservation easement at the time to be dangerous. So really, dug into the details of what it was and what it wasn't. And as I learned more and more about it, it was a perfect fit for my vision for my farm's future.
Tell me a little bit more about that education process. Like, how did they walk you through giving you all of the details? Because we're going to go in a little bit later in the show about what an easement is and some of the potential pitfalls about getting involved in it. And here it is, this legacy, your family land that you want to preserve. You're working with people helping you, so you have to be astute. You have to be paying attention, but also you want to protect what your family has created for over 100 years. How was it as you learned about the process? What made you feel more comfortable to move forward in this matter?
They came out to the farm. We walked fields and looked at the cattle and they we discussed options. Right now it's a little over 200 acres, as I mentioned, but it can, with the easement, I've arranged for it to be. It has the ability to be split in two, so it could be two 100-acre farms in the future. I didn't realize that another house could sit on it, so I arranged for another residence. Understanding that things change and we have to embrace change, but I was able to kind of put some guidelines in there
to make sure that it's protected in the way that you want, huh?
Correct.
What did you feel when you finally signed the draft of the easement? Did you celebrate? Did you feel at ease?
I did celebrate, and to be honest, it was the best night's sleep I had in a long time. And honestly, that's probably one of the best night's sleeps I've ever had in my life. I did not marry until late in life. I don't have children of my own, and so it was always kind of hanging over me what would happen, once I left this world, what would happen to the farm. So, knowing that it will continue to be productive, agricultural land, for its future, it was just tremendously peace of mind.
We all know that Tennessee, particularly Middle Tennessee, is kind of rapidly growing. What do you want our fellow Tennesseans that you may know, who might not know a farmer personally, but what do you want them to know about what you all contribute here to our state?
Well, agriculture is the number one industry in the state. Our state emblem has agriculture on it. So agriculture is very important to our state's past and present and future.
What's the most beautiful part? Like when you sit out and you walk this property, 200 acres, what is the part that always comes to your mind when you close your eyes and you imagine and picture your family's farm?
There's so many corners and so many spots that bring me joy, but I love sitting in the swing in the back porch and just overlooking a hayfield, overlooking cattle grazing the pastures, or at the pond. It's just very, very surreal, very peaceful.
We just had some pretty gnarly storms hit us. How do you maintain operations and make sure that the cattle and that you all are safe when nasty storms come through?
That's true. Usually the next mornings you're looking at the aftermath and you're discovering limbs and trees on fences and having to clear those. But it's amazing. The animals are pretty resilient.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is the place that your parents helped to maintain. And earlier you mentioned in the piece that you still kind of feel their presence on the farm with you. Do you think one day, if you can, you'll find a way to keep an eye over the farm yourself? I
will certainly find myself trying.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Excellent. I want to thank you so much for being here with us. Marianne Blackwell is a cattle farmer in Rutherford County. She runs the Greens Ward Farm, which has been in her family for generations. Again, Marianne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to take a break. When we return, we're going to speak with Gary Gardner, a fourth-generation farmer himself who lives down in Ardmore, Tennessee. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from Burr and Foreman Law Firm, serving clients with transactional, litigation, and regulatory needs. Discovering how each client defines a win and working with them every step of the way to achieve it. Burr.com. Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. Today, we're talking about the future of farms and farmed land in Tennessee. Now, the state is rapidly losing farms to development. Farmers, nonprofits, and lawmakers are working together to help farmers keep their properties for future generations. Joining us now to share about his family farm is Gary Gardner. Gary, welcome to This is Nashville, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. Okay, so tell me this, first and foremost. What do you love about living on the farm and being a farmer?
What I love the most is being out in the open. I mean, I live in a rural area and you still can, our farm is kind of on a slope and then part of it is on a hill. So my favorite thing is going back up on top of the hill and just sitting and looking for miles around. I mean, no houses, it's just absolutely beautiful.
Fresh air all the time, huh?
All the time.
Okay, now, look, being a farmer is a lot of work. You yourself, you visit cattle every day, and I imagine there's always something for you to be doing. Tell me this, what is your favorite thing to do working on the farm?
Well, my favorite thing to do is just seeing them grazing, even in the wintertime, they eating hay, And of course, having a four-wheel, I ride back up on top of the hill and see them laying out under the shade trees. Just no kind of worries in the world.
That's
I
right.
love it.
That
Yes.
sounds like a nice existence right there. I could go for that. I understand
Oh,
that.
yes.
I understand you spoil your cattle. How do you like to spoil them?
Well, I suppose I'm by right now. I got eight. I got 8 head of beef cattle,
Hmm.
and well, I give them sweet feed, and I don't let them get low on hay. I keep hay before them, and by me doing that, and by me being out there with them all the time, I mean, yeah, I'm probably right. They probably is a little spoiled.
I imagine, but they got to be the happiest cows in Tennessee. I figure.
They are, and they can anyway. They can be a half a mile off the road, and then when they see my truck coming down the road, I don't know how they do it, but they recognize my truck, and when I turn in to go to the bund, they right there at the bund, especially in the evening time.
Hmm. I imagine I haven't really assessed the intelligence of cows and cattle, but I'm sure they know. They know the man with the sweet feed when they hear the man with the sweet
Right,
feed. So,
that's exactly right.
what does it take to be a cattle farmer? What kind of personality does make a good person to tend to cattle?
You gotta have patience. Then back 2 months ago, I experienced a cow coming down with cancer.
Mm.
And all the years that I lived on the farm, I never have experienced that. So that right there was something real new to me. And of course, I asked other farmers, had they ever seen a cow with cancer? And of course, I had one other guy told me that he had, but that right there was probably one of my saddest moments being a farmer.
What happened with the cow? How did everything turn out?
Uh, what happened is, well, she back in the fall of the year, she had an eye that started running water. Well, I got concerned as winter time come because it kept running water. So I took some pictures over and carried it to the veterinarian, and of course he told me that she had cancer.
Mm.
And of course, what I done was I got the calf, and of course I had to let her go,
I'm sorry to hear that,
which
sir.
was which was sad news.
It kind of feels like you're letting go of family, huh?
Right. That's exactly right. They now I can't bring them in the house or nothing like that, but they are. I look at them just like somebody having a puppy or something. They my pets.
Hmm. Now, your great grandfather, Gary Gardner, was an enslaved man. He secured the land that you grew up on. Your grandfather and your dad worked the land, and now you have this land and you farm and work on it as well. Tell me this, what does it mean to carry on these deep, rich family traditions of tending to and receiving from this land and what it's meant to you?
Well, after my father passed in 2008, of course, he died from cancer. And of course, I would sit with him, listen to him talk, and he would always tell me this right here. He said, "Well, Gary, you know what you got to do." And of course, after he passed, I realized it was the farm.
Hmm.
That he was expecting me to carry on the farm.
Now, do you have siblings?
Yes, yes.
What does it mean to you that your dad chose you to continue this
Uh,
legacy?
I feel I feel humble. I mean, uh, of course, oldest. Uh, I'm the oldest in my family, and I think back in the older days, and it's something that have been passed on down is that the oldest, the oldest is the one that usually, carry on the farm.
Hmm. Take on those responsibilities. You know,
Right.
you look around and you see decades of memories everywhere. What does it mean to you to be the oldest, to continue this legacy of your great grandfather, your grandfather, your father, and now you are carrying this on? What does that mean to you?
I feel humble. My great grandfather Matt Gardner, he was a minister. My dad was a minister, so I feel like the chosen one
Hmm.
to carry it on.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're focusing on farmers in today's episode. What is their day like? What does their farm mean to them? And what does the future hold for their farms? My guest is Gary Gardner, a farmer in Ardmore, Tennessee. Now, Gary, what is your hope for the future of your farm? What would you like to see happen to it?
I like to see it in an easement where it always remain farmland. And of course, I'm working on this with the other family members and hope to get this done.
Now, in the clip we heard earlier in the show, you expressed that you specifically did not want your farmland to become a large-scale chicken farm or to have a bunch of apartments built on that. I feel that.
That's right.
I understand it. Tell me why you feel this way.
I feel the farm is our farm is in me. I mean, I played there, worked there, and all my years. I mean, I was there on the farm, and it's a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I understand that. Do you feel like you'd be giving up something your granddad, great granddad, and your dad held on to? Now,
that's exactly right.
So in terms of like continuing on and strengthening that part of your family legacy, we also heard in the feature that your kids aren't really interested in taking over the farm. And I'm sure you know other farms who, and maybe potential others who don't have children who, want to take over their properties. What does that mean to you? How are you trying to convince your kids, hey, this is something that's worth holding on to and worth growing?
I have a nephew. He's 32 years old, and every opportunity that I get to talk to him, I believe he would be the chosen one. But I got to keep talking to him and let him know what the responsibility is, and you got to love it. I mean, that's what I'm teaching him. So I'm praying and hoping that my nephew carry on.
What's your sales pitch?
I sell pitching on beef cattle. I always tell him that you if you keep the calf and you take care of him and you vaccinate him, give him shots and things that he need, you can make some money. You can make money.
Now, it must be hard. 32-year-olds kind of want a life of excitement, a life of venturing out and doing things. It doesn't sound to me that that's farm life. Farm life sounds a lot more peaceful, calm, a place where you can contemplate the deep philosophical meanings of life. Is he into that, or does he want to go out and have fun and then maybe come back and settle down on the farm?
He's pretty settled. I like I said, I got to continue to talk to him, of course, pray for him. But I feel like right this moment, I believe he's the one that will carry on. I got to keep talking to him, praying for him, and hoping that he do.
I have a feeling that if you keep calling the position the chosen one, this might be something that attracts him. Who doesn't want to be the chosen one, right?
Well, right now, I want somebody I'm seeing that carry on would be him.
There you go. And now your family farm is a century farm, correct?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so what is that, and what did it mean to get that designation?
Yeah, it was an honor. I went to the 100-year ceremony that year, which was held in Jack Daniels. It was held at Jack Daniels, and to sit there, me and my wife, and to look around and see other farms that's 100-year farm, been in farming for 100 years. I mean, it's special. It's special.
Now you are working to get an easement put on your property, and whether or not that comes through, what is your hope for what your land will be 100 years from now?
100 years from now, I'm praying and hoping that my family will come together and get it done. And if I see it before I leave this earth, if I just, it's my prayer and hope that we can get that done.
Well, here's to hoping that your prayers are answered. Let me ask you this before I let you go, sir. What else you got tasked? What other things do you have to get done on the farm today after you get off the line with us?
Well, we not had high wind down here in Giles County, Ardmore area, so I got to check the fence. I got to go all the way around the fence to check it, see a tree down on the fence. And then if that happened, you got to do some fencing. So that's what I'm gonna do once I get through talking to you guys, is go check my fences.
Always something to do, huh?
Always.
Wonderful. I want to thank you so much for being with us. Gary Gardner is a farmer in Ardmore, Tennessee. Mr. Gardner, again, I appreciate you taking the time with us. Have a beautiful day.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, we're going to take one last break. When we return, we'll find out how an organization and a proposal by the governor are seeking to help farmers protect their properties. Stay with us. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil A. Kulona, and this is Nashville. Today, we're talking about farmland in Tennessee. We're losing a lot of farmland every day to development. Here to share how they are working to help protect that farmland are Liz McLaurin, the CEO and president of the Tennessee Land Trust for Tennessee. And that's an organization that helps landowners protect their properties. And Senator Jack Johnson, a member of the Tennessee General Assembly who represents District 27 in Williamson County. Senator Johnson recently sponsored a bill that seeks to help farmers preserve farmland. Liz and Senator Johnson, thanks you both for being here. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be with you.
Okay, so I got to ask you both this question first. It's really burning at the top of my mind. Have either of you spent significant time visiting, living, and or working on a farm?
Well, I'll start. I'm actually the first generation as far back as we can go in my family that did not grow up on a farm.
Okay.
My father did, my grandfather did. And but one of the things I've learned is how important farmland is, not only to our economy, but just to our landscape, and how important it is that we preserve it. So we do live on 7.5 acres in Franklin, and my wife has 2 horses. I don't think that counts as a farm, though. But
okay, so when you were growing up, did your dad or granddad ever send you out there to bale some hay and put a little work in?
Absolutely, yeah. We probably hauled more hay, and that's really hard work when you're up on the trailer and they're throwing the bales up to you, and it's 100 degrees out there. That's a hard way to make a living.
So you got some sweat equity.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Liz, what about you?
Yes, I grew up, I had friends who had a big dairy farm, and I actually learned how to drive a stick shift when I was 9 years old. It was a little Volkswagen Bug, and I learned to drive that because I was the one. It wouldn't go very quickly, so they trusted me. Mm-hmm. And I was driving that with an old trailer, and they were those square bales, and everybody was loading it. But I was not quite big enough to haul those big bales up on the. So I was the driver.
You helped out nonetheless.
That's right. And we live on a little farm in Williamson County.
Okay.
So, and we've had horses and chickens and all of that. So
you both have firsthand experience in farming and what it means to Tennessee. Now,
Yeah, I would say so. As a kid growing up in a rural area in Texas, you did a lot of work on farms.
Okay, so for both of you, answer this. Why are farms so important here in our state, and what makes them that there is such there's this now new push to protect our farmland?
Well, farming is a huge economic driver for this state. And as Mary Ann said, it's on our seal. And also, I think the character of Tennessee is defined by farms. Keeping the country in Tennessee means keeping farms in Tennessee. And, our farm families have been here for generations. And it is so important to the character and the economy of this state. And protecting farms is really hard to do right now because developers, we all need places to live, right? But farmland is important because it's farmland, and keeping land open for future generations is absolutely critical for food security, if nothing else.
We need places to live, but we also need food to eat to help us out as well. Now, Senator Johnson, Governor Lee has championed the idea of a $25 million farmland preservation fund, which intends to help farms preserve their land largely through easements that we've talked about throughout the show, without limiting the ways that people can farm their own land. You sponsored a bill in the Tennessee Senate, which was a step towards making this a reality. We want to note that this part passed the Senate in mid-March. But first, explain to the audience who may not know what an easement is and how it would work with this pending legislation.
Sure. An easement is basically just a legal restriction, if you will. And I'm not a lawyer, so forgive my layman's terms on it. But it's something that a landowner can place on their property that must be honored and respected, into perpetuity or for a set period of time. There are various ways that you can do it. So specifically on this conservation easement that we're talking about today, that is something that a landowner can enter into an agreement with someone like the Land Trust of Tennessee to have that conservation easement placed on their property, just to ensure that it remains either in farmland or forest land. We talk a lot about farmland here in Middle or West Tennessee. In East Tennessee, it's less what you might typically call farmland and sometimes more like forest land. But something you brought up, and I wanted to make sure your audience knew, is that we have 4 Tennessee counties that are among the fastest growing in the nation. 4 of our counties in Tennessee are in the top 100 in the entire country. And 3 of those are right here in Middle Tennessee: Murray, Wilson, and Montgomery counties, all growing at double-digit rates in terms of population growth. And the irony is one of the things that is attracting to Tennessee, in addition to our strong economy, our low taxes, our low debt, our pro-business environment, is our beautiful landscape. And yet it's the threat of those people coming in and more development that could jeopardize that beautiful landscape that we all enjoy so much. So we have to find that balancing act. And the legislation you referenced, I'm so grateful to Governor Lee for proposing this legislation, and I was honored to sponsor it for him in the Senate. And my friend and colleague, the House, I serve as the Senate Majority Leader. The House Majority Leader, William Lamberth, sponsored it in the House, and is to set some money aside. Something I talked about in committee is there are a lot of wealthy people who can go buy land and put it into a conservation easement, but there are family farmers, working family farmers, who may not have the financial means to do that. And that's why it was important for the state to be a partner to help facilitate that.
98% of Tennessee farms are family owned. So what does this legislation that still needs to be voted on in the House, what does it specifically create?
Sure. So you mentioned the Farmland Preservation Fund. That will be a fund that's administered through the Department of Agriculture with the state of Tennessee. And people who own land, farmland, forest land, and would like to contemplate the idea of putting a conservation easement on it so it doesn't get developed. The gentleman you were talking to with a Century Farm, so many of these farms have been passed down from generation to generation, and they've made family commitments. They've made commitments to their parents or their grandparents that they will keep the farm as a farm and not sell it off to a development. I talked to a gentleman from West Tennessee who has one of these family farms that's been passed down from generation to generation. And he said, Senator Johnson, I make $60,000 a year on this farm. It generates $60,000 a year in income. I've been offered $20 million for the farm.
That's a hard choice, man.
That's a hard choice. He said, but I want to honor that commitment I made to my parents and my grandparents, that this Farmland Preservation Fund would enable him. It's not going to get $20 million of the 25, but he might be able to get a grant to help it make economic sense for him to place that conservation easement on his property.
Now, Liz, the Land Trust of Tennessee, you all working across the entire state to help landowners, including farmers, preserve this land through these easements. How do you and your staff help farmers and landowners? How do you help them in understanding and setting up these easements for their properties?
Well, first, every conservation easement is different, and it's customized to the land itself and the landowner's wishes. And then we couple that with the conservation values that we establish through our process, things like prime agricultural soils and things like that are the conservation values that we are protecting in perpetuity through a conservation easement. So it could be a 20-acre place, or it could be 4,000 acres. And so each one is very different and is customized. So we work with them, as Marianne said, we work with them on what their wishes are. Sometimes a property could be divided. Sometimes there are additional residences. So it's limiting development on the land. It is not making it go wild. And I think that's a misperception. Also, you continue to own the land. We don't own the land. We don't want to own the land. You continue to own the land. You can farm it. You can fish. You can hunt. You can do lots of things. And for most landowners, there's really no change in their use of the land. And they also can pass it down to heirs, or it can be sold. But the conservation easement stays in place in perpetuity. And that's our job as a land trust. We've done 460 projects across the state. They all look very different. Some are public parks, some are farms. Most of the land is farms. About 130,000 of the acres that we protect 137,000, and about 130,000 of that is farmland.
I'm curious about the process that a landowner has to go through and the time frame before a landowner can see some results. Also about the costs. What are those?
Well, the costs are things like surveys, if you need a survey, appraisals, attorney's fees. We don't charge for our work, and that's intentional. We want to make decisions about protecting land based on the quality of the project, not someone's ability to pay. And that's where this could come in and help, because there are associated costs that we don't charge, but that landowners incur in this process. And the process takes, I think the fastest was 3 months. Okay. And there are people who contacted us when we began in 1999, and they haven't acted on it yet. We have cycles of communication with landowners. 5 years later, here they come again. So it really just depends. But it's typically about a 6 to 8 month process, sometimes a little more. It just depends. We really want people to know their land and know their vision for the land before they make this perpetual commitment.
Now, Senator Johnson, is there a mechanism for how the funds would be available or distributed to landowners?
Yeah, so we left that. We gave the Department of Agriculture, who will administer this fund, a great deal of latitude, and that was intentional because, as Liz said, there are so many variations, and it's really way more than you'd want to legislate or put into statute. So the legislation we passed is pretty simple. We obviously appropriate, or we're proposing, it hasn't been passed in the House yet, but I think it will be. We're proposing to appropriate $25 million that will go into a dedicated fund. The Department of Agriculture can work with landowners and provide grants as deemed necessary. It could be to pay for those surveys or attorney's fees or recording fees, things like that. And it could be for some economic reasons, where the state feels like it's in its interest to help facilitate this easement being placed on the property. But statutorily, we just required a couple of things. In order to be eligible for this grant fund, or to receive a grant from the fund, it has to be a conservation easement that is established into perpetuity. And really the only requirement is that it remain either an agricultural use or forest use. And depending on what it is right now, and if I could just hopefully alarm your listeners intentionally, but
go for it.
Is that in the 20-year period from 1997 to 2017, Tennessee lost 1.1 million acres to development. That's the equivalent to 55,000 acres a year, 152 acres a day, and 6.3 acres an hour.
Wow.
Now, even more alarming, from 2017 through 2023, 432,000 acres were lost, and you break it down, that's almost 10 acres an hour that is being lost to development. And that just in that roughly 5-year period of time, that's the equivalent to 2 Tennessee counties. Of forest and farmland that was lost to development. So that's why we think there's a public policy aspect of this. And again, people put easements on property all the time. And thanks to the great work that Liz and Land Trust of Tennessee has been doing for many years, how many thousands of acres have been preserved through the Land Trust of Tennessee now?
137,000 and counting.
137,000. And that all happened without any involvement from the state. To be clear, that's people who either own land or they purchased land and felt compelled to put that conservation easement on it. We just think there are a lot of families out there who would like to do this or at least explore the possibility, but there's some type of a financial impediment that stands in the way. And that's where the state's going to step in and initially appropriate this $25 million. And the Farmland Preservation Fund will exist into perpetuity, and future General Assemblies could potentially replenish that if it gets used up.
Now, given the numbers that you just gave us about the number of acres and land that we have lost over the years due to development, we have to be honest and say that the state kind of had policies to encourage development.
We did.
So is this kind of attempt to balance a little bit of the land that we lost?
Yeah, it is. And we look to other states. I think there are 20, don't hold me to I think it's 29 other states that have some type of a state facilitated conservation easement program or preservation program that's in place. So we're not inventing the wheel here. We're borrowing from good legislation that had been passed in other states. But you hit the nail on the head. It's a good problem to have, but it is a problem. People are moving to Tennessee in droves. They love Tennessee, and they're fleeing some other states, and that's exciting and that's good. But I think we have to recognize that we don't want to wake up one day, and I mean no disrespect to my friends in Atlanta, but we don't want to wake up in 10 years or 20 years and be nothing but strip malls and parking lots and not have any of this beautiful greenery that we have around us today.
Now a lot of folks, I imagine, the listeners, they're in favor of preserving farmland and supporting farmers here in the state. But I have a feeling not everyone wants to have the limits, likes the idea about having limits on the land that folks own or what they can purchase. What do you say to those who are concerned about putting limits on what future landowners can do with their own property? Liz?
Well, developing your land is a right, and conserving your land is a right. And you have a bundle of rights as a landowner. And so, yes, it's limiting the possibilities for the land, but developing the property also limits the possibility for the land. And it's our responsibility as an organization to work with landowners who want to protect their land for future generations.
You know, we're losing all this farmland every day, every hour, it seems. There's some estimates that are pretty staggering. What do you hope for the future? I would love to hear from both of you on Tennessee's farmland, where you realistically think we may be in 10 or 20 years.
Well, if I could wave a magic wand, and I'd love to see Tennessee continue to grow and prosper and have a great business climate. People continue to move here. But I think you can do that, and you can do it in a smart way, in a strategic way that also preserves land. Look, land is going to get developed, and that's happening every day. And I want to echo what Liz said because she really nailed it. When you think about property rights, if I own land today and I sell it to a developer, I can do that. If it's zoning and all the different things you have to go through. But I can sell my property to a developer today who turns it into a subdivision. Well, effectively now that has been developed into perpetuity. Well, why should I also have the right to say, no, I don't want it to be developed? So the property right of a landowner today can have implications into perpetuity if it becomes developed. So you ought to have the right to preserve it as well. And but what I hope, and representing Williamson County, we have a lot of growth and a lot of people moving in, a lot of new subdivisions being developed, but I also see these beautiful patches of green that have been preserved and will be that way forever. So my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids, when they're driving by, and there might be a new neighborhood here or there, but they're going to be these beautiful tracts of land that have been preserved into perpetuity.
Now, Liz, Tennessee, when I moved here from New Mexico, people say, get ready, you're moving basically to the jungles of the United States. Everything grows out here. It's incredibly green. We've done many shows on the rich amounts of wildlife and the diverse ecosystems we have here. So what do you want to see? About 30, 40 seconds left. What do you want to see this place be like in 10 to 20 years?
I want to see balance. I want to see places to live that have open space around them, preserved open space across the state. And that's what we're attempting to do. We are statewide, we're a nonprofit, and we can continue to do this work. And we're very grateful for Governor Lee and his vision.
I'm grateful that you both decided to join us today. Liz McLaurin is the president and CEO of the Land Trust for Tennessee, and Senator Jack Johnson represents District 27 in Williamson County. Again, thanks to both of you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is the production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Katherine Ceicys. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our board operators, Liv Lombardi, the masterminds behind our theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And the conversation does not end here. Comment and tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message at 615-751-2500. Find us on the socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, and X at This Is Nashville. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil A. Colonna. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody, and to be good to each other.